What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, there are creatures in the ocean so massive, so bizarre, so utterly alien that they make every horror movie monster look tame by comparison? And here's the terrifying part. We've barely explored 20% of our oceans. That means 80% remains a complete mystery. The deep sea is the largest habitat on Earth, covering over 70% of our planet's surface. It's darker than space, more pressurized than anywhere else, and home to things that evolution created in complete isolation from sunlight for millions of years. Some of these creatures have been seen by scientists. Others exist only in folklore and blurry photographs. And a few, well, they might still be down there, waiting. Today, we're diving into the abyss to count down 7 of the most terrifying sea creatures ever documented, witnessed, or whispered about by sailors. From ancient folklore to modern mysteries, from confirmed specimens to unexplained signals, these creatures will make you think twice before going near the ocean. Let's descend into the deep. Starting at number 7, the Frilled Shark. We begin our journey with a creature that shouldn't exist in the 21st century, yet it does. The frilled shark, sometimes called a living fossil, looks like something that swam alongside dinosaurs. Because it did. This creature has remained virtually unchanged for 80 million years. It has a serpentine body reaching up to 7 feet long, covered in dark brown skin. But its most disturbing feature is its mouth. The frilled shark has 300 needle-sharp teeth arranged in 25 rows, all pointing backward, ensuring that once something enters its mouth, it's never getting out. The teeth aren't designed for chewing, they're designed for trapping. When the frilled shark catches prey, usually squid or smaller fish, those backward-facing teeth act like a cage. The more the victim struggles, the deeper it gets impaled. These sharks live at depths of 390 to 4,200 feet in the eternal darkness of the ocean's twilight zone. They're rarely seen by humans. When they are spotted, it's usually because they've come to the surface sick or dying, giving us brief, unsettling glimpses of what lives in the abyss. In 2007, a frilled shark was captured alive in shallow water near Japan. The footage went viral because people couldn't believe something so prehistoric was still swimming in our oceans. It died hours later, unable to survive in warmer, shallower water. Scientists believe there are thousands of frilled sharks lurking in the deep, virtually invisible to us, unchanged since the age of dinosaurs. Evolution looked at this creature and said, "You're perfect, don't change a thing." At number 6, the blobfish. From prehistoric terror to modern absurdity, we meet the blobfish, voted the world's ugliest animal in 2013. But here's what most people don't know. The blobfish isn't naturally that ugly. What we see in photos is actually a corpse that's been violently decompressed. The blobfish lives at depths of 2,000 to 4,000 feet off the coast of Australia and Tasmania, where the pressure is 60 to 120 times greater than at sea level. At those depths, the blobfish actually looks relatively normal, a pinkish tadpole-shaped fish floating just above the seafloor. Its body is mostly gelatinous mass with very little muscle, because at those depths, muscle tissue requires too much energy to maintain. The blobfish has evolved to be essentially a floating blob of barely alive tissue that sits on the ocean floor with its mouth open, waiting for food to drift by. When fishing trawlers accidentally catch blobfish and bring them to the surface, the sudden pressure change causes catastrophic damage. Their gelatinous bodies expand, their features distort, and they die almost instantly. That sad, melting face you've seen in memes? That's what explosive decompression does to a deep-sea creature. The blobfish represents something important. We're destroying creatures we barely understand. Bottom trawling fishing operations are driving them toward extinction, and we're mostly just laughing at how weird they look when dead. Imagine if aliens dragged you into space and then made fun of how you looked when you explosively decompressed. That's what we're doing to the blobfish. Coming in at number 5, the giant squid. For thousands of years, sailors told stories about enormous tentacled monsters that could drag entire ships underwater. They called it the Kraken. Scientists dismissed these stories as drunken fantasy, until 2004, when we finally captured the first photographs of a living giant squid in its natural habitat. Giant squids can grow up to 43 feet long, with eyes the size of dinner plates, the largest eyes in the animal kingdom. Those massive eyes evolved to detect the faintest traces of light in the deep ocean, allowing them to see predators and prey in near total darkness. Their 8 arms and 2 feeding tentacles are covered with hundreds of suction cups, each lined with sharp, tooth-like rings that tear flesh on contact. When a giant squid grabs prey, those serrated suction cups don't just hold on, they cut deep, leaving circular scars on anything that escapes. Giant squids hunt in the midnight zone, between 1,000 and 3,000 feet deep, where sunlight never reaches. They're incredibly intelligent, with complex nervous systems and problem-solving abilities. They're also incredibly aggressive, known to attack anything they perceive as prey, including submarines and underwater cameras. We've found giant squid beaks inside the stomachs of sperm whales and circular suction cup scars covering whales' bodies, evidence of titanic battles in the deep. Some of these scars measure over a foot in diameter, suggesting squids far larger than the 43-foot specimens we've documented. The terrifying implication: the giant squids we've seen might not be the biggest ones. In the deepest parts of the ocean, there could be even larger specimens, ones we've never witnessed, creating scars on whales and vanishing back into the abyss. The Kraken was real. We just called it mythology until cameras got good enough to prove otherwise. Before we dive deeper into our top 3 most nightmare-inducing ocean creatures, if you're fascinated by the mysteries lurking in the deep and want to explore more terrifying unknowns from the natural world, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The next 3 creatures get even more disturbing, and trust me, you'll want to stay until number 1. You won't believe what's been hiding in the ocean this whole time. Breaking into number 4. The Ningen. Now we enter murkier waters, where documented science meets modern folklore. The Ningen is a creature that allegedly appears in the frigid waters near Antarctica, and its description is genuinely unsettling. According to reports that surfaced on Japanese online forums in 2007, the Ningen is a massive whale-sized creature with smooth, pale white skin. But unlike any whale, it has a distinctly humanoid shape. Witnesses describe it as having a torso, arms, hands with fingers, and a face with minimal features. No eyes, just smooth white skin with slight indentations where eyes might be. The story began with a Japanese research vessel crew claiming they witnessed something surfacing near their ship off the Antarctic coast. At first, they thought it was a submarine, but as it got closer, they realized it was biological. It moved with intention, surfaced briefly, stared at them with its featureless face, then descended back into the dark water. In 2005, satellite imagery from Google Earth allegedly captured a large, pale creature near the coast of Namibia. The shape appeared roughly humanoid, measuring around 60 to 90 feet long. For years, this image circulated as proof of the Ningen's existence. Those coordinates are still shared online, though recent updates to Google Earth no longer show the creature. More sightings followed. In 2012, whale researchers reported seeing something with smooth, pale skin that looked disturbingly human surface near their ship before disappearing. Security footage from research stations allegedly shows similar creatures approaching underwater installations. Here's the thing. The Ningen story originated as creative fiction on 2Channel, Japan's equivalent of 4Channel. It was never meant to be real, but the concept captured imaginations so effectively that people started reporting genuine sightings, or so they claim. Are these people seeing beluga whales from odd angles? The underside of a beluga does look unsettlingly leg-like. Are they seeing rare albino whales or deformed specimens? Or is there actually something massive and humanoid swimming in the least explored waters on Earth? Scientists say there's no evidence the Ningen exists, but then again, we've been wrong about ocean creatures before. The giant squid was considered a myth until 2004. At number 3, Umibōzu. From modern mystery to ancient terror, we travel back to feudal Japan and one of the oldest and most feared sea monsters in maritime folklore, the Umibōzu, which translates to sea monk. According to Japanese legends, dating back to 1492, the Umibōzu is a massive humanoid shadow figure that rises from calm ocean waters on quiet nights. Sailors would see it from a distance, a gigantic dark form emerging from the sea, sometimes revealing only its head and shoulders, other times its entire upper body. The Umibōzu is described as pitch black with enormous glowing eyes that stare directly at ships. Some accounts say it's 60 feet tall. Others claim it's so massive that only its head is visible, the rest of its body extending thousands of feet down into the abyss. Unlike most sea monsters that destroy ships with violence, the Umibōzu kills with calculated precision. It approaches vessels silently, then either capsizes them with its massive hands or smashes them apart. Survivors reported feeling overwhelming dread before the attack, as if the creature radiated pure malevolence. In old folklore, sailors believed the Umibōzu was the vengeful spirit of drowned monks, or the collective souls of those who died at sea, manifesting as a singular entity of rage and sorrow. There was one way to escape: give the Umibōzu a bottomless ladle or barrel. The creature would attempt to fill the ship with water using the vessel, but being bottomless, it could never succeed. Confused and frustrated, it would sink back into the ocean, allowing the ship to escape. Paintings from the 1700s depict the Umibōzu as an absolute terror, a mountainous black figure rising from still water, dwarfing entire ships. These weren't casual sketches. These were serious warnings created by people who genuinely believed this creature existed. Why did so many sailors report seeing the Umibōzu? Some suggest mass hysteria, exhaustion, and fear of the unknown. Others point to actual phenomena like rogue waves, underwater volcanic activity, or encounters with giant squid creating shadowy shapes. But here's a disturbing thought. What if those sailors actually saw something? Something massive and dark that lives in the deepest ocean trenches, surfacing only occasionally, so rarely that we've never captured it on modern equipment. The ocean is darker and deeper than space, and we've explored more of space than our own seafloor. Landing at number 2, the Bloop. In 1997, the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration detected something that shouldn't exist. An ultra-low frequency sound so loud it was picked up by underwater sensors over 3,000 miles apart. They called it the Bloop. The sound originated from a remote area in the South Pacific Ocean, far from any shipping lanes, military activity, or underwater volcanic regions. When scientists analyzed the frequency and amplitude, they realized something terrifying. If this sound came from a living creature, that creature would need to be significantly larger than a blue whale, the largest animal ever known to exist. Blue whales can reach 100 feet long and weigh 200 tons. They produce sounds that travel hundreds of miles underwater. But the Bloop was louder, deeper, and traveled thousands of miles. Scientists calculated that whatever made this sound could be 200 feet long or more, twice the size of the largest blue whale ever recorded. For years, marine biologists compared the Bloop to known whale calls, submarine sounds, and underwater earthquakes. Nothing matched. The sound had biological characteristics, rising and falling in pitch like an animal vocalization, but it was far too powerful to come from any known species. This led to a terrifying hypothesis. Somewhere in the deepest parts of the ocean, there might be a creature so massive, so deep-dwelling, that we've never observed it. A true leviathan from the abyss. Internet artists created visualizations of the Bloop creature, imagining a whale-like monster hundreds of feet long with a gaping mouth and pale, eyeless skin drifting through the midnight zone, calling out into the void. In 2012, scientists offered a more mundane explanation. The Bloop was likely caused by ice quakes, massive Antarctic ice shelves cracking and scraping against the seafloor, creating enormous vibrations that travel thousands of miles through water. This explanation is probably correct. Probably. But here's the unsettling part. We can't be certain. Ice quakes are the most likely cause, but they're still just a theory. We never identified the exact source. The Bloop happened once, was recorded, and then stopped. Whatever made that sound, we never heard it again. And remember, 80% of the ocean remains unexplored. The deepest parts, the Hadal zone below 20,000 feet, are barely mapped. More humans have walked on the moon than have visited the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Could something massive be down there? Something that surfaces rarely, calls out once every few decades, then descends back into the crushing darkness? Scientists say no, but scientists also said giant squids were myths. And finally, our number 1 most terrifying creature, Megalodon. We've reached number 1, and I know what you're thinking. Megalodon? That's the most obvious choice ever. But hear me out, because there's more to this story than you realize. Megalodon was the largest predatory shark ever to exist, reaching lengths of up to 60 feet and weighing over 60 tons. Its bite force was 40,000 pounds per square inch, powerful enough to crush a car. A single megalodon tooth is bigger than a human hand. This apex predator ruled the oceans from 23 million years ago until its official extinction 3.6 million years ago. But here's where things get interesting. That extinction date is based on the youngest fossils we found. Shark skeletons are made of cartilage, which rarely fossilizes. We know Megalodon existed primarily from teeth, and teeth are notoriously difficult to date accurately. So that 3.6 million year extinction date? It's our best guess, not a certainty. The ocean covers 71% of Earth's surface. Only 20% has been explored. The Hadal zone, the deepest part of the ocean below 20,000 feet, is one of the least understood environments on the planet. We've spent more time mapping Mars than our own ocean floor. Commercial fishing vessels occasionally report whale carcasses with enormous bite marks that don't match any known predator. Deep-sea cameras capture massive shadows and unexplained sonar readings. Submarine crews report brief glimpses of something enormous moving in the deep. In 2013, a Discovery Channel documentary suggested Megalodon could still exist, sparking massive debate. While the documentary used fabricated evidence and was widely criticized, it raised a legitimate question. Could a 60-foot shark survive undetected in the deep ocean? Marine biologists say it's extremely unlikely. Megalodon was adapted for warm, shallow waters where whale populations thrived. The deep ocean is cold, dark, and lacks the massive food sources a giant shark would need. If Megalodon existed, we'd see evidence, massive bite marks on whales, increased disappearances of large marine mammals, something. But extremely unlikely isn't the same as impossible, and in an ocean we've barely explored, the unknown remains vast. Here's my question. If a coelacanth, a fish we declared extinct 65 million years ago, turned up alive in 1938, swimming peacefully off the coast of South Africa, if a giant squid, considered pure mythology for centuries, was finally photographed in 2004, if the frilled shark, unchanged for 80 million years, still haunts the deep, then who's to say Megalodon couldn't be down there too? Maybe not in the numbers it once existed, maybe not as large as its ancient ancestors, but perhaps a smaller, deep-adapted descendant species, lurking in the Hadal zone, feeding on giant squid and deep-sea fish, surfacing only rarely, so rarely that we've never captured concrete proof. That's why Megalodon holds the #1 spot, not because it's the most terrifying creature in the ocean, but because it represents the terrifying truth that we don't actually know what's down there. 7 creatures from the deep. From confirmed species to modern mysteries to ancient folklore. What they all share is this. They remind us that Earth is not fully explored, the ocean is not fully understood, and evolution creates horrors we can barely imagine. The frilled shark proves that prehistoric monsters still swim among us. The blobfish shows us we're destroying things we don't understand. The giant squid confirms that myths are sometimes real. The Ningen warns us that new mysteries emerge every year. The Umibōzu reminds us that ancient fears had real foundations. The Bloop suggests something massive called out from the abyss. And Megalodon? Megalodon represents the question we can't answer. What else is down there? 80% unexplored, darker than space, more alien than Mars. The ocean is humanity's final frontier, and we've barely scratched the surface. So the next time you're swimming in the ocean and you feel something brush your leg, remember, you're not at the top of the food chain. You're a guest in someone else's world, and they've been here far longer than you. Sweet dreams, and maybe stay out of the water for a while.